The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.
Welcome back to Hardball. As we reported last week, a group of former Special Operations Forces and CIA officers, many with ties to the Republican Party, the Tea Party groups, and the birthers, have launched an attack on President Obama over his handling of the bin Laden raid last year. They accused the president of leaking information about the operation and taking too much credit for its success. Here's part of a 20-minute video they put online.
They didn't. This administration didn't capture or kill or eliminate bin Laden or anybody else. There's a whole lot of folks in the military and intelligence community who have been working on this for a very long time.
Mr. President, you did not kill Osama bin Laden. America did. The work that the American military has done killed Osama bin Laden. You did not.
Wow. Well, this week the group came under strong criticism from fellow special forces and other military leaders. As the Associated Press reported, some officers say the group is breaking a sacred military creed, respect for the commander-in-chief. The Associated Press quotes one Green Beret who wrote on his Facebook page, quote, "This is an unprofessional, shameful action on the part of the operators that appear in the video, period." And on Tuesday, the top U.S. general, the head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Martin Dempsey, weighed in with his criticism. Let's listen.
The American people don't want us to be another special interest group. But if someone uses the uniform, whatever uniform it is, for partisan politics, I'm disappointed by that, because I think it does erode that bond of trust we have with the American people.
So did this group cross a line? I think so, but will their message find a receptive audience on the right? Michael Hastings is a political reporter for BuzzFeed and a contributing editor at Rolling Stone. Spencer Ackerman is a senior writer for Wired, magazine's Danger Room blog. I'm going to start with Martin on this, or actually Spencer. Spencer, let me ask you about this group. It seemed to be marbled in here with people of the birther persuasion, the real Zanos, who are incredibly, well, I think nuts, but they believe in some conspiracy theory that Mrs. Obama, the mother of President Obama, somehow conjured up this notion her husband. Somehow she came up with the idea her son should be president someday. So she managed to marry a guy from Africa with the name Obama, Hussein Obama, and then Barack Hussein Obama, and then she figured out, well, I'll get to have the baby over in Africa, and then I'll lie about it and put out newspaper accounts that he was really born. What an insane way to have your brain work, to think that somebody would ever think like that or would ever pull it off, and for what purpose? If you want your son to be president, you probably marry a guy named Joe Martin from across the street who's got an Ivy League education and everything's figured out ahead of time. It's insane. But anyway, move on here. This guy, Ben Smith, really gets to me. Tell me about these guys.
This is an organization that really kind of gets laughed at when I've had conversations with people in the military and the Pentagon around it. Not a lot of people consider it credible, and they view it with a kind of embarrassment that it's one thing to make a critique about leaks. It's quite another thing to inject yourself in the middle of a political campaign and sort of get the uniform involved in it.
Are they using their uniform? Does this have nothing to do with their military role? It has more to do with their ideology on the hard right?
It's hard to understand how this organization would get any traction if they weren't using their military experience as a cover to make this sort of strange critique of Obama. I mean, this is a president who's prosecuted more leakers than any other previous one, to the consternation of civil libertarian organizations.
Well, Foreign Policy Magazine reports that one of the main spokesmen in this group, Ben Smith, has put this out on his blog. You are an imposter. You are a Muslim. You are the Manchurian president. And may you go back to the country you were born in when you were deposed, you little man, and take all your communist sympathizers with you. Michael Hastings, this is the thinking behind that guy Smith who appeared in the ad we just showed.
Right. I think, hey, Chris, and hey, Spencer, thanks for having me. One of the things we have to sort of look at here is this has been a well-coordinated campaign that started earlier this year. This new group that led by the birther is the third political act, the third super PAC that has come out to attack Obama over the bin Laden raid and over national security leaks. It seems to be well-funded. There have been allegations from Democratic groups that Karl Rove is the one behind it. And And we're going to see even more of it. Next week at the Republican convention, they're having a event where they're going to have former Navy SEALs and Special Forces guys, and even U.S. senators, I was told today, up on stage talking about this.
And what's Rove's involvement, and what evidence do you have of that involvement?
Well, the evidence is circumstantial. Rove has tweeted in support of the group, and he's also featured prominently on one of the web pages for Special Operations for America, which is one of the three super PACs involved here.
Okay, we'll see about that as we develop this story. The video does some selective editing, however, the president's speech to make it seem like he personally took all the credit for the raid that got Osama bin Laden and never thanked the intelligence and military teams. In reality, of course, we all know the president's rarely given a speech about the raid where he hasn't credited those who did the work in that case and took the risks. Here are a few examples that might have been overlooked in the editing room by the people behind this video. Let's watch what he really said.
Over the last 10 years, thanks to the tireless and heroic work of our military and our counterterrorism professionals, we've made great strides in that effort.
Thanks to the incredible skill and courage of countless individuals, intelligence, military, over many years, the terrorist leader who struck our nation on 9/11 will never threaten America again.
Because of the sacrifices now of a decade and a new greatest generation, slowly and systematically, we have been able to decimate the ranks of al-Qaeda. And a year ago, we were able to finally bring Osama bin Laden to justice.
I'm going to go back to Michael here at this point. You know, even in casual conversation with somebody pretty high up with the NSC, you get a very strong impression from them that they know darn well that this wasn't a partisan operation to go get bin Laden, that the best people they have working with, the team they work with, are totally nonpartisan. These people that work in the NSC, for example, themselves, right near the president, the people who work in our intelligence services, they aren't Democrats or liberals or whatever. It's a mixed bag of Americans who are doing their duty, and they're incredibly good at it.
Right, and I think what we're seeing here politically, obviously, is the president's opponents taking one of his greatest strengths and accomplishments was the bin Laden raid, or that's how it's perceived, and trying to turn it into weakness. That's classic Rove, and it's not an accident that right now the Obama campaign is fighting back against this really hard. They'd been silent. The White House had sort of been silent on this, but now they're coming back and punching back and saying, hey, making the points you said. The military should not be involved in these sort of partisan activities.
I really think that the whole swift voting of John Kerry was sleazy. This is in the same league. There's something really bad about people that engage in this. Let people do what they do for their country and move on. Anyway, thank you, Spencer Ackerman, and thank you, Michael Hastings.
The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.